Okay, guys, so I don't, like I said, I don't have a study guide. This is the first time that I've taught this class, so it's kind of new to me. But what I can do is I can sort of, I can look through, first of all, I can talk in generalities about the exam, okay? So the exam is going to have a couple of different components, all right? It's going to have a building identification component. So one of the things that you guys really need to be able to do is to identify the names of the buildings, right, that are in all of the lectures. Okay? Here's a good one that you guys probably need to know, right? So I showed you guys this one building, right? And it was called the Flavian Amphitheater. The word Flavian Amphitheater came from a video we watched. Can anybody name the name of that building?
The one, oh, no. Which video? The one we were over there?
Was it the Maxim Coliseum?
Coliseum.
Yeah.
Correct.
She got it first. She got it first.
And so it's important to be able to link that stuff. But essentially, part of a good part of your final exam is going to be identifying the buildings and the names. Those will not be multiple choice. Those will be fill in the blank. So you need to know how to spell that stuff. When I've seen students studying for history exams, architectural history exams at Cal Poly, or even here, what I typically see is I see students get together in study groups. Everybody's responsible for making up some like little cards that have pictures of the buildings, flashcards, and it has the picture and the name of the building. And if you know the year, if it's one where we discuss the year and who the architect was, you might talk about that. Okay. So, like for example, who was the architect of the stepped temple? That's one you might want to know. Who was the step temple built for? Okay, in either case, you guys need to go through the PowerPoints, which I have provided all of them to you. They're all uploaded to Canvas. And look at the images of the stuff and just make yourself little tiny flashcards with the name of the building, and if the architect's name is available, if it had a year associated with it, put it in there. In many cases, there were no years associated with stuff because it was like built over like long periods of time. But there were a few where there were years kind of associated with it. So that's going to be the building ID component, where you basically are going to have to kind of memorize all these buildings and how to spell their names. Okay? So does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, the best way is this is a memorization thing, right? It's a matter of memorizing the name of the building and what it is and being able to identify it quickly.
Oh, is it going to be timed again?
I don't know. Okay, so that's one component of it. Did you have a question? I believe it's going to be. I'm sorry. I believe it's going to be on the computer. So it'll be, like the quizzes you guys have taken. So the timing issue, I'm not sure about. So one thing that I did say is that I would give you guys did I say the last 10 minutes of the period?
Look over notes.
To go through your notes. So I'm still planning to do that. So that's one part, is building identification. Okay? Second part is going to deal with the components that were part of the lectures. Can you name the 7 continents? Can you identify the 7 continents? If I point to a region that I've shown you in a mapping thing, right, will you be able to identify which civilization it's associated with? So that's going to go into that. I'm going to, while this thing is recording, let's see how many minutes we're at. We're at 4 minutes. So the whole first week of the whole first class period, I believe, we talked about different methods of analyzing architecture. Okay, architectural analysis. We also had an entire section on different media that are used to study architecture. So that, again, that's coming straight out of the PowerPoints. So being able to identify those key things, and really there are lists of these things in some of the PowerPoints. Okay, so it's important for you guys to be able to say, all right, the things that were discussed as ways of analyzing architecture were this, this, and this. Okay. I mentioned so here's another thing. So again, going to more concepts and less of like identification. I mentioned it today also in part of the lecture, right? We talked about the earliest civilizations. What did those civilizations grow up around, and what were the name of those places? Okay. So those are things that are going to come straight out of the geography component at the very beginning. There were key architectural characteristics that were part of one of those first sort of chunked out lectures. It talked about certain things that describe certain features of architecture. You should know what those things were. Okay, so for example, like if I draw a line straight down the middle of me, I am, don't say it, right? What would that dashed line be called? Okay, let's see what else I can give you guys clues and hints about. Are you having a good time over there?
Very nice.
Okay, yeah, the people that are giggling and saying snarky little things over there. You should be able to identify the orders and which orders were part of which group of people. Okay, there were 3 and 5. So, I mean, I think it would be reasonable to be able to ask you where one of the orders came from that the Romans kind of added to the mix. Was discussed in the class.
We just say Greece.
That's not the right answer anyways. So the Romans didn't add the Greek ones. The Romans added other ones. So
No.
bingo, from up north. So I gave you PowerPoints. You go through that stuff. It's called learning. That's not learning. That's just entertainment.
Get it?
Okay.
Get it?
I'm going to use the questions and stuff that came out of the quizzes. So those will be sort of mixed into the bunch.
Can we access the quizzes? Like some of them, it's like what?
Well, I don't think you can. There's no way to kind of do that. Carl, are you raising your hand or scratching your head?
I'm stretching, sorry.
You're scratching. All right.
Damn it, Carl.
Okay, we took a field trip to the Getty Villa, right? The Getty Villa is a Roman house. You guys should be able to identify the parts of that house. Okay? You all got a little flyer thing from it, right? And if not, it's available online. Okay? So there's different pieces of the house, right, that were referenced to the Roman era. I might show you pictures of things from the Getty Villa that you guys should be able to identify. Yes, sir.
All the Getty Villa stuff is
Well, it's going to be a mixture of the two, but it's going to be pretty evenly mixed. So, a lot of the more conceptual stuff, I'll try and do multiple guess for you. But the identification stuff, you guys need to know what it is. Okay. Open up a couple of these and see what else we might talk about.
We have like a map and say, go here, go there.
Say that again.
We have like a map and say, go here, go there, like where's the yellow river and where's the red sea?
Yes, I already mentioned that. That's I said that the civilizations started in certain places, and so the image that I will show you will more than likely be the same image that's in the PowerPoint. What I mentioned to you guys that civilization started in certain places, right? And so, there were 4 places and there were certain characteristics to them. The image that I'll show you and ask you to kind of identify the pieces of, right, are going to be straight out of the PowerPoint. So, no? Okay. All right, so does that qualify as a study guide? Yeah and no? No, it doesn't have all the answers, right?
Well,
Yeah, but no. You guys have fill in the blank stuff too.
We should make it so, can we phone a friend?
That's why yeah. Hey, you spell ziggurat wrong, you're in trouble.
Can we just make it where spelling doesn't count? Like,
No, that's not possible.
how many questions?
Half and half. So you got a 1 in 4 chance of getting the right answer, unless I really get dastardly. And I put in 6 choices or 8 choices.
Wait,
Right?
how many questions are there?
I don't know. I'm still working on the test.
So,
Takes
study
forever
guide.
to do this stuff.
Study guide.
I'm at 35 right now.
holy shit.
No, let me rephrase that. I'm at 35 new ones, not including what's in the quizzes.
Holy fuck. 150.
I can't believe it. I'm in college. It's not like high school. They don't give me the answers to every question.
Damn.
I will be grading on a curve, so it's not going to be,
Low end.
90% is an A, 80% is a B. I will factor the whole thing in,
So everybody
and
gets
I'll
zero.
curve it.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
the highest.
You're deviant, aren't you? You're devious, not deviant, devious. So, okay. Fair?
Yeah.